Let's talk to Ryder. Hi, Ryder. You're on the Atheist Experience. What would you like to talk about today?
Hello, the lovely Shannon Q and the wonderful, devilish, fiendish Johnny P. Angel.
I'm lovely also. Dim the lights.
Also?
Give me that soft filter, and I'm very lovely.
It's all about the filters.
I love your
100%.
background, Johnny, if you don't mind me saying. I'm a visually impaired caller, and your background is quite lovely. I'd love to paint it sometime. I don't know if it's virtual or not, but it is nice.
Take a screen cap. Thanks a lot. I love that.
Cool. What would you like to discuss today, my friend?
So, I'd like to talk about a range of subjects. I don't know what you want to get to first. My own personal, I'm a theist/theist. I could explain that a little bit. Objectively, Dan didn't agree with that one. I could explain my own testimony. I was thinking about maybe talking about even though I'm pro-choice, pro-rights, when it comes to abortion, on the abortion issue, I still do see the other side of the coin, on the pro-lifer issue, on the pro-life side, in that the only thing, and I was wondering in the sense, which is why I stayed out of the voting realm of it all. But I tend to more lean toward the pro-choice rights.
Okay.
And I was wondering, has anyone come on this show and made the argument that, like, for example, I've heard Matt often say that slavery is morally wrong. One of the reasons because those slaves slaves can have such a, it's not just because it's morally and ethically wrong to own somebody as property, but because they have a valuable life and they could become doctors. What if, what if, these, fetuses in a womb are basically slaves to their mothers, requiring life and sustenance via a tube that is basically a chain. And the only way to free them from the bondage and constraints of the womb is to abort the fetus, which would end the life of a potential doctor or lawyer or mathematician or scientist. I mean, this is
okay. So, Ryder, I gotta slow you down for a second because you have covered multiple topics from multiple perspectives. So it seems as though you've narrowed in on a topic that you want to focus on from the start. It's not the topic that you mentioned at the call screener, but that's okay. We can talk about this. If you're talking about abortion, you are a pro-choice person. Is that what you said? You're a pro-choice. You're not pro-forced birth.
I'm pro-choice. I'm pro-choice.
Okay.
Right. Yes.
Okay. So why don't we talk about something that you and I might disagree on, as opposed, or perhaps the subject that you called in about, as opposed to going through a hypothetical thought experiment, so that we can have a more fruitful discussion. How does that sound?
Well, as always, Shannon, you know how to keep people on track. So yes.
Sometimes. So you're a deist and you wanted to talk about like concepts of time, which sounds interesting to me. So let's have a chat about that. What do you want to talk about?
So concepts of time. Now, Steve, if I'm correct, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you most certainly will, which is one thing I like about you.
All right.
One thing the Almighty likes about you too, by the way.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Some insight there.
By the way. Yeah, I talked to him personally. I talked to him audibly, by the way. Anyway, we'll get into that in a minute.
Okay. What's the concepts of time, though? What's the concepts of time?
Yeah. Concept of time. Now, Stephen Hawking said that there was no time before the Big Bang. Therefore, there was no time for God to exist, because time didn't exist prior to the Big Bang. Is that correct?
I don't know. Maybe I don't. I'm not particularly well versed in being able to validate Stephen Hawking's quotes.
Yeah, I saw him on Into the Universe before he had passed, and that's one of the quotes that I saw in that program.
Okay, cool. So what's up with that? So you have
So basically, my theory of time is that now I don't know, like, this may be because I'm visually impaired,
Okay.
but I've always had a hard time reading a manual, I don't know, a wall clock. You know, that ones with second hands and minute hands, because I really just, my vision is too poor that I can't see the minutes and the seconds and the hands.
Okay.
But I've always perceived those watches, and the way that I perceive time is a measurement of distance, not a measurement of anything other than that. Because the second hand, it's just merely a second is merely the distance that it takes between those hands to get to one notch to the other.
But that's not actually what time is, though, right? Like, you can acknowledge that that's not what time is. That's just your way of mentally identifying how to measure the passage of time. It's just a mental mnemonic that you've used.
What do you perceive time to be, Shannon? Because it's been debated. It still is debated. I mean, right? I mean, if I'm not mistaken.
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm not like a physicist or a philosopher. That's not really my realm. I could give you what I think my best answer is, and then I'll throw it to Johnny. Maybe he can articulate better than I. But I feel
all my thoughts on time are like, I keep on using time as a word for it, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's the amount of. Never mind.
Right, because yeah.
So, like, I would see time passage being a moment, like, to me, like, from an individual perspective, I guess I perceive time as the progression of moments that are no longer in existence, right? So that's what I would see time as. But I'm not a physicist or a philosopher. What do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, it seems like it's the sequence of events, a particular ordered sequence of events, of cause and effect, A, then B, then C, then D, upon which, or within which I exist. I mean, this is not a scientist's understanding of time. This is just some guy's understanding of what time is.
So my follow-up question to you would be like, what is the relevance and how does that, like, what does it pertain to? You brought up the subject for what reason?
Yes. Well, I wanted to talk about the idea that usually theists and deists say that God is outside of time, that God comes, God is prior to the Big Bang, if you want to say that God was the ultimate mover, started the Big Bang, that God is outside of time and space, but rather that I am a theist who believes, no, God steps into time and space to create the universe.
Okay, so your perception of time is relevant because it ties into your conceptualization of God, like the God that you believe in is a God that steps in and out of time. Is that what I just heard you say? So exists outside of time and then somehow
he steps into time to create the universe, because the universe because I view time as a measurement of distance and not a series of moments.
Okay. But so God's
distance is key. But
I get that the concept, writer, I get that you have this concept of God stepping in and out of time to sustain or create the universe, but I guess I could ask you, what the heck does that mean? And more importantly, how do you prove that that's true? It's a concept for you're sort of wrestling with the idea of perhaps the existence of time before the Big Bang, and you've created this, or you've accepted this concept that there's a being outside of the flow of time. Well, that's like that doesn't really make any sense to me. I know that we're all trying to wrestle with where does space-time come from, but we can't just cook up ideas and special pleading there. I mean, I can conceive of a God that's a square circle. I mean, maybe before time is just as logically impossible as a square circle, right? And trying to understand it, well, you're never going to get anywhere, because you can't even prove that you can't necessarily prove that a God exists first. But you said you spoke to God. You said you have verbal communication with God. Does God tell you how?
Go ahead.
Does God?
I apologize.
No, it's okay. There's a delay. Does God tell you how God exists outside of time and steps in and out of the flow?
I haven't talked to him about that one, John. He just I haven't talked to him. I haven't asked him about that one yet. We just get to so many other topics, that just the outside of time and inside of time thing. I mean, he's told me that he can walk through time, kind of like time fades in and out around him. If he wants to go to, let's say he's in the 1920s and he wants to go all the way back to the 1400s, the whole surroundings will just change around him, kind of like just everything. I mean, it morphs away. I mean, I don't know. I just
like Doctor Strange, or like the Time Variance Authority, or perhaps like the Doctor. I mean,
something like.
Has God taken you on one of these journeys?
I've been to heaven.
Okay, so I want to get back to the time thing and just kind of reiterate Johnny's point because
quickly. I have to apologize. This call went in a way different direction in the beginning than I meant to take it. I did take a couple of pops off my Canavape. I do have my medical card. I get post-traumatic stress disorder, and I was thinking it might act up on the call, but because of being nervous and all, But I wanted to ask you. I know you do have a medical degree. I was wondering.
I do not.
How often in the cadaver? Oh, I thought you did.
I do not have a medical. Okay, so you're having a disparate and disjointed dialogue with us right now, which is making it very difficult for me to explore the subject matter that we're attempting to explore.
Oh, I happen to shift gears like crazy in conversation. It was a question that I wanted to ask you because you'll have to forgive me. It was just a question that was burning in me to ask you because I was under the impression and assumption that you had been present during medical autopsies, and
writer. I'm going to stop you for a second. I think we're going to let you go because the conversation is becoming incredibly disjointed. And I've never been present for a medical autopsy, nor am I any type of physician, nor do I have a medical degree, nor have I ever expressed that I do. So I'm going to let you go because I have concerns about the direction of the conversation as well. So I'm gonna let you go now. You can find me on Twitter if you'd like to message me your question, but I wouldn't message me a question about an autopsy because I was never present at one, nor do I know anything about them. So I will let you go. Thank you very, very much, and we will move on to the next call.